Hello and welcome to the Mother Flutter podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Sawakis, and today we're going to talk about social media and failing publicly for your art. So it's a little bit of a new format using the old iPhone camera. It's taken me way too long to get this set up. I'll tell you what, podcasting looks really easy and simple, and in many ways it is, and I'm sure if you have a team of people, it is, but when you're doing it on your own and I'm not like a Luddite, whatever, but learning new technology and new software is not fun for me. Anyways, I want to keep this short and sweet today because my laptop will die at some point, but okay. Social media, we know it's bad, right? We know, okay, it's not all bad. Obviously, nothing is all bad. But the bad has been very clear for many of us for a while, right? We know it's kind of like rotting our brains, our attention spans. People are, less even able to focus on long form content or books. We know that it's creating this imaginary comparison. And it's this highlight reel, right? So we see everybody's high points and they're, when they're looking their best, when they're posed in their, happiest of moments, and we don't see the cat litter or the health issues or the struggle most of the time. So it's this unrealistic comparison, not to mention, just as a woman, all the editing that, happens that you're not told about and all the filters and things like that. So oftentimes, these influencers, these celebrities, they don't even look like the social media version of themselves, which, in the olden days when I was growing up, the equivalent was magazines, and, they didn't look like the magazine version of themselves. So you end up comparing yourself to something that doesn't even exist. That's, the most beautiful people in the world can't even measure up to their own, public image of themselves, if that makes sense. And then we're comparing ourselves to that, which is just, it's crazy. It's absolute insanity, and I think it's driving people nuts. And I mean, I remember growing up in the magazine days with the tabloids and the bikini body and the blah blah blah, and how much that just destroyed. Feels like a strong word, but it was, man, my body image was and kind of, there's some lingering effects from those times, and I can't imagine what it's like growing up with social media today. Although I do appreciate that there's more representation, and I kind of even appreciate this influencer culture in the sense that a lot of them, not all, but many of them look like closer to real people than the celebrities and supermodels that I grew up with. And I think it's also heartening, this trend towards authenticity and showing your pimples and, showing your flaws. I've been spending more time on the TikTok, and I like the TikTok because it does, at least my algorithm, it definitely does lean more towards that authenticity. And it's really refreshing for me to see real skin texture or real just flaws, belly rolls and wrinkles and just the real human stuff that, our phone can convince us isn't there or isn't normal or isn't beautiful or whatever. And then, these billion-dollar industries are created by these insecurities that they frankly manufactured. So we know that that's bad. We know that social media can purposely kind of guide people towards these feeds that are, focused in anger and fear and like arousing those emotions, because that's what's going to get you to engage and to stay trapped and maybe even like buy stuff to comfort yourself. I'm not sure on that, but I do know that there's this documentary that came out probably several years ago at this point, but The Social Dilemma. And it was about all these tech giants and engineers who created social media and created these algorithms to be like a slot machine. And they all admitted they don't let their kids on it, which is pretty telling. It's also just a time suck. And this is where, what gets me is you can go on social media when you have a quick break, or, social media can be anything, right? Just a quick break, a quick scroll on your phone, a quick check of this, just a quick little check, a quick little, what can I get entertained with? What can I tickle my senses with? What do I want to do? Some online window shopping. And it's, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there, and it just adds up. And the days where I'm disciplined about, okay, I'm just going to check this twice for 10 minutes a day, I just get so much more done and I feel so much better. I think also with the phone, the little tiny computer in our pocket, with social media, it's so much noise that we don't even hear our own thoughts. We don't even know what we think, because we're just constantly being bombarded with other people's agenda and their stuff, and a lot of it is just people that just want to sell us stuff, which is fine, but it's just so much noise. You don't get to be alone with your own thoughts and your own opinions and your own creativity, and just silence and nature. So that's another thing. But there is a lot of good that can come out of social media, right? For me, for instance, I've made real, actual, true, real life friends that I met from the internet, that started through the internet. Community, inspiration, some of my favorite recipes I found through social media. I think that you can truly curate your algorithm, something I've been talking about for years. On Instagram, it's the 3 dots. I don't want to see this. I have to do it constantly because it just always tries to slip in, that beauty stuff, be this skinny and be wrinkle-free and, whatever. And I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this girl who doesn't even look like this. Get it off. Get it away. Go to a beach and look at what real people look like. So yeah, unfollow and mute is your friend. And the 3 dots, I think on TikTok, you just hold and then you're I don't like it or whatever. It makes you answer some questions. But you can then curate your feed to be stuff you do want to see, stuff that is nourishing to your soul. And people create, really lucrative careers on social media. They create creative careers instead of being stuck in dead-end jobs. That's why I'm on social media, is because I'm a creative person and I want my stuff to get out there and find the right people and land in the right, eyes and rooms. And I've been talking to, my girlfriend about this recently, because, if I had my way, I would just not be on social media at all. I could easily be like a hermit in the woods, I think. But in our modern day, this is how you do it. This is how we do it. But yeah. So I'm kind of forcing myself to do it, to grow creatively, and then get my work out there and just practice. And it's a lot of what feels like, failing publicly. And, my girlfriend's doing the same thing right now. She's a 3D artist. And we talk about, how we get fatigued on failing publicly, and we're just so tired of bombing. And I just want to talk about this, because I know that it's something a lot of people experience, and I'm going through it right now. And it took me, I should have been doing this 5-10 years ago. And I feel like I'm just getting started in a consistent manner. And part of me does regret that. So I guess this is just for those people who are hesitating. And I think once you rip the initial Band-Aid off, like I think the first time I posted on TikTok, I was terrified. I just deleted it off my phone for the whole weekend because I was like, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. I don't like this. Like I said, I could easily not be on social media and be perfectly happy. And one day I aspire to. But until then, here we are. So yeah, I think that that initial ripping the Band-Aid off and getting troll comments and stuff, it does get easier. It's still scary. It's still something I'm actively working through. But I just want to talk about it because especially in this stage when you're trying to find your people and you're trying to find your audience, and it's you're getting shown to, people you knew in high school and cousins you haven't seen in 7 years and thirsty guys. And it's that's not your, market for your art. For me, this is my example. That's not my market for my art. So it can be disheartening when you're putting yourself out there, but it's just not getting in front of the right people. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that there's not an audience. It just means that it's, getting put in front of the wrong people right now. And, it feels like failing, when you don't sell a painting or you aren't selling tickets or, whatever it is, whatever your thing is. But everyone that I admire, got to where they are. And I talk about this with my girlfriend. It's they just failed. They just didn't give up at the awkward failure part, where they didn't find their people. And so we're kind of motivating each other to just keep going, despite this, failing publicly aspect to trying to get our creative careers off the ground. And I've been in sales, in some capacity, but in sales for a few years now, and it's just constant failure. And it does get easy, but that is part of the wins, right? And it does get easier, but that you do get rejection fatigue. And I don't know if that's a neurodivergent thing or just a human thing. It's probably just a human thing because you do get fatigued on just so many no's. But it only takes one yes. Well, actually, it takes more than that to be sustainable, but you know what I mean. So yeah, and even, I do stand-up comedy. I've tried to quit several times. I can't seem to stop. It seems almost a little bit masochistic at this point. But, and bombing definitely comes with the territory with that too. And I've had a couple of hard bombs. And one was last night. But the thing was, it was literally everybody bombed. We all bombed. It was just, the vibes weren't vibing. The material wasn't, worked enough. We were in our head. Who knows what it was? But it just didn't happen. It doesn't mean that we all suck and should quit tomorrow, or maybe it does. Maybe I will finally. But it's just part of the process. And I think it's just learning to not take that seriously or to heart. And I've seen a couple big comedians that I really admire. I'm not going to name names, but one huge, massive, this was in an arena. And then, which I hate arena comedy shows, by the way. I've gone to 2 or 3 and I won't do it again. I don't like it. But anyways, and one was just somebody I really admire, also really big. And I've seen both of them bomb. Again, one was in an arena, one was at the Comedy Store. And it was so helpful for me because I didn't think any less of them at all. It was just wow, even this pro, this absolute pro bombs still today. And maybe it was just the room. I can't even tell you what it was that they did wrong. I still enjoyed the performance. I wasn't like, really sucked. It was just something's just off in the room. Sometimes the energy is just not, like it's just not there. It's just not buzzing. So that was like super actually inspiring to me. I'm actually really inspired by failure. And when people I admire talk about failure and talk about how, they struggled or how even today things they put out or do don't land and don't work. Like I'm more inspired by that than somebody that's just like nailing it all the time. Like that's great for you. It's just, I don't relate to it as a human who, experiences highs and lows. So yeah. And I'm thinking about my friend who, I've been talking about this with, and she's a brilliant 3D artist. And yeah, so my girlfriend is applying to these jobs. She's not, she's getting a lot of rejection. And like looking at her from the outside, it's like, it just hasn't happened yet. Like it's inevitable, like she's so talented. She's like winning these contests that she's entering. Like it's gonna happen. She actually helped me for some work with the podcast, but, right. Like the right people haven't seen her yet. And it's not personal. It's just like not for the people that it's getting to right now. In human design, I started learning about human design a few years ago. It's basically like astrology. It's like a different kind of astrology. Anyways, I'm a projector with like 3-5 profile, which means I learn by trial and error. And like, I sure do. I will tell you what. And, yeah, I think that like also because I'm multi-passionate, I have a lot of things that I like to do. I like to make art. I like to do stand-up. I like to write. I like, podcasts. I like nonfiction. I like fiction. Like I just like to do a lot of things, and I've explored a lot creatively, and I don't intend to stop doing that. But it can feel a lot like starting and stop. It's like creative ADHD a little bit. But I feel like that was more acceptable back in the day, like Renaissance period. Who was it? Da Vinci? Wasn't he like a mathematician and like a artist and like did also, I feel like it was just like more accepted back, like, yeah, the Renaissance period. It was like you were able to like be multidisciplinary. And not to say that people aren't, but I get really frustrated with the like niche down culture and messaging. But anyways, I've been on a Harry Potter kick lately, reading the books and learning about J.K. Rowling more, and like just her story is really interesting and inspiring, and the rejection that, she got. And she talks about her success and how it resulted in fame, which was a burden. And personally, like fame sounds like a nightmare to me. I do want a lucrative creative career, but like the idea of fame does sound like a nightmare to me. But beyond like her level of fame is obviously like insane. But even just, I've heard other creators and artists talk about how like once they got what they wanted, it was like the pressure was on, and like they lost a little bit of the innocence and play of what they did. Not to say that they regret it or it wasn't a blessing, but it's just, I guess this period of like when no one's watching and no one's paying attention, like just remembering that it's a gift and it's like that time to just play and be free and just do it for you and experiment and enjoy like the peace with your art. And so that's kind of like the message that's coming to me right now. I just realized I didn't introduce Betty. You might think Betty's a Halloween decoration, but she's actually my year-round podcast and home companion here. So sorry, Betty, you're beloved and a real hoot. And now the lovely listeners know who you are. Anyways, I think there's just peace in the play stage, and I'm trying to remember that and find it, and enjoy the lack of obligations and just commit to the creative process and the fun and the play in it. So me and Betty are going to be here doing that and learning as we go. Whether we can get rid of these timestamps or not, we'll probably start recording on something besides an iPhone at some point. But thank you for listening. My computer is going to die, so we're going to keep it short and sweet for this episode. But it's been a real pleasure. And until next time.